Hey guys, it's Mike with Symbiosis, and today I'm going to be building two different kinds of tower gardens. One of them is the garden tower, and one of them is the GreenStalk gardening tower system. So there's a few differences. It's a similar concept, and I just wanted to see which one I like better. So I bought both, and there's two variations of the GreenStalk. There's one that has deeper pots, so you'll be able to put more soil in there, be able to grow plants that have deeper roots, and there's one with shallower pots. So right out of the box, a couple of major differences that I'm noticing already is that the garden tower, the plastic on here is more rigid. It's got a glossy finish to it, and it just feels like it's a bit more sturdy, whereas the GreenStalk is still super sturdy, but you can see there's some flex to it. Doesn't have that glossy finish, so it doesn't feel like it's quite as rigid as the other one. Of course, we'll see how they stand up to the test of time. Another big difference is this is a lot deeper than this. So each level of the GreenStalk is going to have a lot more soil on the deep version. Now here's the shallow version. So those are a lot closer. So I'm imagining that things like lettuce and other greens that don't need a ton of root zone are going to do better in the garden tower and in the more shallow GreenStalk. I'd say the last big difference is that the garden tower has a built-in composting column in the middle, and specifically they're saying you can do vermicomposting, you can have worms in there. So I'm going to try that and we'll see how well that works. And yeah, I'm going to start building these up now. Okay, so I'm going to do the GardenStalk deeper pot system first. So there's an option to get this rotating base, and I did go ahead and opt for that. I'm actually not sure what this tube is for yet. I haven't read any instructions, which I usually don't do unless I get too confused to just figure it out. So this is the GreenStalk Ultimate Spinner. Oh yeah, it looks like this is maybe a water return. I see there's a way for water to get all the way down through, and then it looks like this pops on to an outlet so that you can drain your water off, or maybe even return it up to the top, although you need some sort of a pump, some sort of a pressure system for that. So this is the base of the GreenStalk. Now we're going to start putting on the layers and filling it with the soil. All right, so you know how I said I usually don't read the instructions. Well, there was one part of the GreenStalk system that I wasn't entirely sure where to put it. It just wasn't intuitive, and so I've decided to get out the instructions, and I thought it'd be a good time to just say both of these units come with good instructions. GreenStalk goes the extra mile, and they do sort of some relationship building by adding in these pictures about, hey, here's who packed your stuff. They give you some free goodies, some GreenStalk swag. They give you a little magazine, and they also have this free nice little instructional booklet, which I'm going to open up real quick. And like, you know, 95% of this is very intuitive and easy to figure out, but there's one little part that I want to make sure I don't mess up, because once you fill it with soil and stack it, I imagine it's a little bit hard. So they give you some free seeds. They give you some stickers in here. I'm actually kind of just trying to get to the instructions, so all this free swag is a little bit in the way, but I appreciate the customer service they're doing here. Okay, that's what I thought. So it's this little round piece right here that goes on top of the soil in between each layer, that I just wanted to make sure I was putting that in the right place, because it wasn't quite fitting in a way that made me feel entirely sure about how it was going to go together. So now that I have that confirmed, I'm going to go ahead and build it. I've chosen a spot where I get a lot of sun, and so and I'm still going to have to rotate these periodically, but the sun tracks right overhead. It goes over there, so we're going to get a good 6 to 8 hours of sun, even in the shortest days of the year. So I've got a level here. This isn't super critical, but since the gardens are going to be pretty tall, these tower gardens, I do think it'll be good to have them level so that the water doesn't lean to one side, so that it doesn't fall over if a squirrel jumps on it or something like that. So I'm checking here. It's not perfectly level, so I am going to do just a little bit of leveling on the ground beneath it. and then I'll start filling it with soil. So here's what I'm going to be putting in there. This is a worm casting product that we get from Brothers Worm Farm, just south of Austin. And it's really great in that it has a lot of spongy, water absorbent material in it, as well as the worm castings. There are a few earthworms in there, but not a ton. And I just feel like it's going to do a really good job of creating drainage and water absorption, so you don't have to water too much, and also so that things don't get waterlogged or compacted. So that's going to be a big component of the soil here. I also have this soil that has peat moss in it that I mixed up to pot up some fruit trees, and it's also just a standard soil mix from Wimberley Gardens, because I live close to them, so that was easy to get. And this particular pot has a lot of peat moss, so I'm going to use that to help cut some of these other soils that have less peat moss. So this is a lot heavier. It's harder for me to dig in with my hand. There's some mulch in there, but it's more of a sandy loam soil. And if you used just sandy loam soil to fill these garden towers, I think that given a year or less, it would become very compacted, and it would become hard to grow things in. And since, you know, you really don't want to have to take these things apart, these tower gardens, and redo the soil, I'm really investing heavily in creating a great soil structure, a lot of fertility, and hopefully I can get a good 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 years without revamping the soil. I'm also going to add some of these amendments here. So I've got MicroLife organic, it's an 846. It also has minerals and microbe inoculants in there, both fungus and bacteria. And this is AEA product, Advancing Ecological Agriculture. This is a great inoculant that I'm going to put in there. Okay, so I've got the first one built here, and you can hear this little water system working. This is draining down there and through a little pan that sits at each of these, and then quite a bit of it is going down and out the bottom now. I think this is maybe my biggest skepticism about this product. I'll have to double check and make sure that I did everything right, but it looks like it's all just, a lot of the water is draining out of the bottom. So I don't understand how that's supposed to be an efficient, effective irrigation system for these. So we'll see. Maybe I messed something up. Maybe I can save you guys the trouble of messing something up and fixing it if I can figure out what I did wrong. All right, so it turns out I did it right, and this is how you're supposed to assemble it. And water is supposed to come out of the bottom when you fill it up all the way like that. One thing that I did not do, because I didn't read the instructions closely enough, is each of those little pans that sits in there, let me grab one real quick. So each of these little pans that sits in here has these little tiny holes in it, and so those are supposed to line up with each of the planting pockets, and I didn't make sure that I did that, so I'm gonna have to disassemble this thing and make sure that these holes line up with a pocket, so that that water will get in there. And so the idea is that the water fills up to this point and then it drains down to the next one. So I think, you know, part of the thing that's going to be important with this is to fill the top reservoir slowly enough that each of these can get completely full, and so that each level gets this pan amount of water or more when it's watering. Because I do feel like, especially here in Central Texas where it's so hot and the sun's going to be hitting the side of this thing, that it's probably going to need water every day, and it might need a little more than this pan per level per day. So we're gonna have to dial that in, but I think it's a cool concept, and even though I'm a little bit skeptical that it's going to work without some troubleshooting and figuring, I do think it's a cool concept. So we'll see.